In this video, we'll apply the PHP programming concepts we learned in the last video in the playlist to our website to make this site navigation dynamic dependent upon the page we're on. I'll start by creating a new file in the include folder named nav.php. And I'll cut the navigation code from the index page and paste it in the include file. Now I need to go back to all the pages in the site and add the include for the page nav. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, with the includes added and the files saved, let's go back to our browser and test this out. And it looks like we have a problem. I'm not seeing any page navigation at all. I actually know what the problem is, and I'm wondering if any of you had caught it when I was adding the include file to the pages. So let's jump back in the code. Now, I left this in the video for a specific reason. Granted, I didn't mean to make the mistake when I was adding the include, but it's a good example of copying pasting one problem into multiple pages. And the issue is that when I copied the include file from the head and pasted it into the body to include the nav, I changed the extension from PHP to .nav. What I had meant to do was change the head to nav. So let's go ahead and make the changes in all our files. Now let's go back to the browser and see what this looks like. Reload the page, and here's our nav. So we have the nav on the home page, we have the nav on the register, and the nav on the login. And if I log in, we see we have the nav on the contacts page, but it's not the nav that we want. When we're on the contacts page, we want to have the logout link in the nav, not the login and register. So let's fix that. Back in our nav PHP, we need to add a new login item to log out when we're on the contacts page. If I save this and go back to the browser, on the contacts page, we now see all three menu items. And in fact, if I go to any page on the site, we'll see all three menu items. What I want to do is add a conditional statement that checks to see which page we're on. And if we're on the contacts page, I only want to show the logout link. If we're on any other page in the site, I want to show the login and the register. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some PHP code that will get us the name of the file that's loaded in the browser. So in the case of the contacts page, the file name is contacts.php. But what I really want is just the name of the file without the extension. So if we're on the index page, I want index. If we're on login, I want login, and contacts, obviously contacts. So what I'll do inside of this PHP block is add some code that'll allow us to echo the name of the page. So I'll save this and go back to the browser, and now we see contacts. If I go to the home page, we'll see index. Great, so now we have a way to get the name of the page that we're on. Now let's add this to a switch statement that we can use to check the page, and depending upon which page we're on, display the proper links in the nav. So I'll cut that code and jump down inside of our nav and add the switch statement, which we'll use to switch on the name of the page, and then we can add our cases. So if it's the case that the page name is equal to contacts, then I want to echo the string that has the logout link and then break. If it's the case that I don't have contacts as the file name, I want to execute the default, which will be to echo the other two links in our navigation. And just for good practice, we'll break out of this as well. Now let's save the code. We'll go back to the home page, and we see the login and register links. If we click register, we see the login and register. If we click login, we see the same. And if we log in, we see the logout link. So now we have dynamic page content for our navigation dependent upon the page we're on using a PHP switch statement. In the next video, we'll look at adding contacts to the page dynamically instead of hard coding each card.